The alarm screamed across the monitoring station, and Vexillar's 3 eyes widened in disbelief. His clawed hands moved quickly over the control panel, checking the readings again. Something impossible was happening at the edge of Sector 47. High Commander Thralix, you need to see this. Vexillar called out, his voice shaking slightly. The tall, scaled commander walked over with heavy steps. His red armor clinked with each movement. What is it now, operator? Another asteroid? No, sir. It's a gravitational anomaly. Something big just appeared out of nowhere. Vexillar pointed at the screen where numbers and symbols flashed in urgent patterns. Thralix looked at the data and frowned. Run a diagnostic. The sensors must be broken. I already did, sir. 3 times. The readings are correct. Vexillar pulled up another screen. Whatever it is, it's massive. And it's coming from the quarantine zone. The High Commander laughed, a harsh sound that echoed in the control room. Impossible. The humans in that zone barely have chemical rockets. They can't even leave their own star system. But as they watched, the anomaly began to take shape. The sensors showed a vessel emerging from faster-than-light travel. Its hull reflected the distant stars in strange ways. The computer tried to identify the ship's design but came up empty. No match in the entire galactic database. Get Fleet Admiral Krenvus on the line, Thralix ordered. His confidence was gone now. Across the galaxy, aboard the ship that had caused such alarm, Captain Jinho sat in his command chair with calm eyes. His gray hair was cut short, military style. Deep lines marked his face from 30 years of service in deep space. He looked at the main view screen where stars stretched out before them. Status report, Jinho said quietly. Lieutenant Hana stood at the tactical station, her fingers dancing across holographic displays. She was younger than the captain, with sharp features and even sharper instincts. We've cleared the jump, Captain. All systems normal. I'm detecting active sensor sweeps from a station about 2 million kilometers away. They've seen us then. Jinho smiled slightly. How long until they come to investigate? If they follow standard Imperial protocol, we have about 40 minutes before patrol ships arrive. Hana pulled up a tactical map. The nearest Imperial station is orbiting that dead planet there. According to our intelligence, it's a border monitoring post. In the engineering section deep inside the ship, Taeyang wiped sweat from his forehead. The chief engineer had been monitoring the experimental reactor core throughout their jump. The technology was new, barely tested, but it worked better than anyone had hoped. The Indomitable Dawn had just traveled further and faster than any human ship in history. How's she holding up? Asked Sujin, the medical officer who had come down to check on him. Perfect, Taeyang replied with a proud grin. Not even a fluctuation. This reactor could power 10 ships this size. Sujin nodded and made a note on her tablet. Good, because if the captain's briefing was accurate, we might need that power soon. Back on the bridge, Science Officer Minji was analyzing everything her sensors could detect about the Imperial station. Captain, their technology level is interesting. Their sensors are powerful but crude. Their weapon signatures suggest energy-based plasma systems. Compared to our capabilities, Jinho asked. At least 3 generations behind us, sir. Minji looked up from her station. Their shielding technology appears to be electromagnetic-based. Our kinetic weapons would cut through it easily. Communications Officer Yuna turned in her seat. Captain, I'm receiving a transmission from the Imperial station. It's a standard identification request in Veltheran language. Can you respond in their language? Jinho asked. Yuna smiled. I can respond in 47 Imperial dialects, sir. Which would you prefer? Let's keep it simple. Standard Veltaron. Tell them we're a peaceful exploration vessel from Earth, and we request permission to pass through this sector. As Yuna composed the message, Jinho thought about the long journey that had brought them here. Earth had been quarantined by the Galactic Empire 200 years ago. The Empire had deemed humanity too primitive, too violent, too dangerous to join galactic civilization. They had placed warning beacons around human space and forbidden contact, but humanity hadn't stopped advancing. Cut off from the galaxy, they had focused inward. They had united their world, cleaned their oceans, and reached for the stars with renewed purpose. Scientists had worked in secret on technologies the Empire thought impossible. Engineers had built ships that could cross the galaxy. And now, the Indomitable Dawn had come to announce that humanity's isolation was over. Message sent. Captain, Yuna reported. Now we wait, Jinho said. At the Imperial Monitoring Station, chaos had erupted. Fleet Admiral Krenvis had arrived via emergency transport. He stood in the command center, his purple skin flushed darker with anger. A human ship? Here, his voice boomed. How is this possible? We don't know, Admiral, Thralik said carefully. But it's real. And they just sent us a message. In our language, Krenvis read the translation and his anger grew. Peaceful exploration. Request permission. These primitives dare to enter Imperial space without authorization. He turned to the tactical officer. How many patrol ships do we have available? 6 cruisers, Admiral. They're ready to launch on your command. Send them all. Intercept that human ship and escort it to the nearest processing station. If they resist, disable their engines. Krenvis smiled coldly. It's time to remind these primitives why they were quarantined. Aboard the Indomitable Dawn, sensors detected 6 ships launching from the Imperial station. They accelerated quickly, moving to intercept. Here they come, Hana announced. 6 Imperial cruisers, standard patrol configuration. They'll reach us in 30 minutes. Jinho nodded slowly. Tactical assessment? Each cruiser carries approximately 40 plasma cannons and 20 missile tubes. Their shields are moderate strength. If they attack together, they could pose a problem for most ships. Hana paused. But not for us, Captain. Let's hope it doesn't come to that. Jinho stood up from his chair. All hands, this is the captain. We're about to make first contact with the Galactic Empire. Everyone stay sharp and follow protocols. We're here for peace, but we're ready for anything. Jinho out. The crew of the Indomitable Dawn checked their stations and prepared for whatever came next. They were 600 light-years from Earth, the first humans to venture this deep into Imperial space. Their mission was to open dialogue, to show the galaxy that humanity had grown beyond its violent past. But if the Empire wanted a demonstration of what humanity had become, the Indomitable Dawn was ready to provide one. The distance between the two forces closed steadily. In the cold vacuum of space, history was about to change forever. The 6 Imperial cruisers formed a wide circle around the Indomitable Dawn. Each ship was 300 meters long, bristling with weapons that glowed with contained energy. Their hulls were decorated with the symbol of the Veltheron Empire, a claw gripping 3 stars. Inside the lead cruiser, Commander Vaxtor studied the human ship on his view screen. It was strange-looking, not like any design he had seen in 50 years of service. The hull was smooth and dark, almost black, with no visible weapons. It looked more like a piece of art than a warship. Attention, unknown vessel. Vaxtor broadcast on all frequencies. You have entered Imperial space without authorization. Power down your engines and prepare to be boarded. This is your only warning. On the bridge of the Indomitable Dawn, Yuna listened to the transmission and then looked at Captain Jinho. They want us to surrender. Sir? Of course they do. Jinho kept his voice calm. Yuna, respond in Veltheron. Tell them we mean no harm and request dialogue. Yuna activated the communication system and spoke in perfect Veltheron, her pronunciation flawless. Imperial vessels, this is the Terran ship Indomitable Dawn. We are on a peaceful mission of exploration. We request the opportunity to speak with your leadership and establish diplomatic relations. In the Imperial cruiser, Vaxtor's jaw dropped open. They speak Veltheron? How is that possible? His second officer shook his head in confusion. The quarantine files say they shouldn't have any knowledge of our languages, Commander. Vaxtor recovered quickly. It doesn't matter. Send the response, comply, or be fired upon. When the message reached the Indomitable Dawn, Lieutenant Hana frowned. Captain, they're powering up weapons. All 6 ships have active targeting locks on us. Jinho sighed. He had hoped this would go differently. Raise shields, but do not power weapons yet. Let's see if they're serious. Hana touched several controls and the ship's defensive systems came online. Around the Indomitable Dawn, an invisible barrier of electromagnetic force appeared, strong enough to deflect almost any attack. Vaxtor saw the energy reading on his sensors and made his decision. Fire a warning shot across their bow. Show them we're serious. 2 of the Imperial cruisers fired their plasma cannons. Bright green bolts of superheated matter streaked through space toward the human ship. They struck the shields and vanished in a flash of light. When the glow faded, the Indomitable Dawn sat exactly where it had been. Completely undamaged. Impossible, Vaxtor whispered. Those shots should have at least rocked their ship. Minji analyzed the attack from her science station. Captain, their plasma weapons are thermal-based with electromagnetic acceleration. Maximum temperature approximately 15 million degrees. Our shields absorb the energy with zero stress. I'd estimate we could take direct hits from all 6 ships for several hours before seeing any shield degradation. Let's hope we don't have to test that, Jinho said. He stood up from his chair. Hana, I want you to prepare a demonstration. Something that will make them think twice about continuing this hostility. Hana smiled. It was not a friendly smile. I have just the thing, Captain. Taeyang, Jinho spoke into the ship-wide comm. I need maximum power to the maneuvering thrusters. In engineering, Taeyang heard the request and laughed. Maximum power? Captain, I can give you twice maximum. This reactor was built for combat loads. Do it. Vaxtor was conferring with his tactical officer when something impossible happened. The human ship simply vanished from his sensors. One moment it was there, surrounded by his cruisers. The next moment, empty space. Where did it go? Vaxtor shouted. Find it now! Alarms blared across all 6 Imperial ships. The human vessel had reappeared, but not where anyone expected. It was now behind their formation, positioned perfectly to attack all 6 cruisers at once. How did they move that fast? The tactical officer's voice shook. Our sensors didn't even track them. They just teleported. They hadn't teleported, of course. The indomitable Dawn had simply moved faster than the Imperial sensors could track. Using its advanced reactor and maneuvering systems, the ship had accelerated to an incredible speed, circled around the Imperial formation, and decelerated back to a stop. All in the span of 4 seconds. All Imperial vessels. This is Captain Jinho of the Indomitable Dawn. His voice came through their communication systems, calm and steady. We do not wish to fight you, but we will defend ourselves if necessary. Stand down your weapons and allow us to pass peacefully. Vaxtor felt fear for the first time in his military career. Whatever technology these humans possessed, it was far beyond anything the Empire had. But pride and training took over. All ships target the human vessel. Fire on my command. 3, 2, 1, fire. 6 Imperial cruisers unleashed everything they had. Plasma cannons, missile barrages, and particle beams all converged on the human ship. Space lit up with destructive energy. The attack lasted 10 seconds, an overwhelming display of firepower that could have destroyed a small moon. When the light faded and the sensors cleared, the Indomitable Dawn was still there. Not a scratch on its hull. Its shields had held without any sign of stress. Target their weapon systems, Hana said quietly. Precision strikes only. Disable but don't destroy. The human ship's weapon ports opened and thin beams of focused electromagnetic energy lanced out. They struck each Imperial cruiser in rapid succession, targeting specific points on their hulls. The beams didn't explode or burn through armor. Instead, they delivered precisely calibrated electromagnetic pulses that overloaded weapon control systems and power distribution networks. In 4.2 seconds, all 6 Imperial cruisers were floating dead in space, completely disarmed. Their life support and engines still functioned, but every single weapon system was offline. Vaxtor stared at his dark control panels in shock. What did they do to us? Captain, we should finish this, Hana said. A show of force they won't forget. Jinho shook his head. No, we've made our point. Yuna, send them a message. We disabled their weapons to protect ourselves, not to harm them. Medical assistance is available if they need it. Tell them we're leaving now, and we hope future meetings will be more peaceful. As Yuna sent the message, Jinho turned to his helm officer. Plot a course deeper into Imperial space. Let's see how high up the chain of command we need to go to find someone willing to talk. The Indomitable Dawn engaged its faster-than-light drive. Space bent around the ship, and in a flash of light it was gone, leaving 6 disabled Imperial cruisers and a lot of very confused alien officers behind. Aboard one of the cruisers, Vaxtor finally found his voice. Get Fleet Admiral Krenvis on the line. Emergency priority. Tell him the humans aren't primitives. Tell him we just encountered something we don't understand. Tell him. He paused, trying to find the right words. Tell him the Empire might have made a terrible mistake. The message was sent at light speed back to the monitoring station, then relayed to Imperial Command, and finally to the throne world itself. Within hours, every important leader in the Veltheron Empire would know the truth. Humanity had emerged from quarantine, and they were not the helpless species everyone had believed them to be. In the cold mathematics of military power, 6 Imperial cruisers had engaged 1 human ship. The result was total defeat without a single casualty on either side. It was a precision demonstration of overwhelming technological superiority, and it was only the beginning. The Imperial throne world of Veltherin Prime gleamed like a jewel in space. 3 moons orbited the massive planet, and thousands of ships moved between orbital stations and the surface. This was the heart of an empire that controlled 40 star systems and ruled over a dozen species. In the Grand Council chamber, Fleet Admiral Krenvas stood before the High Council and delivered his report. The 12 council members sat in raised seats, looking down at him with expressions that ranged from disbelief to anger. "You're telling us that 6 of our cruisers were disabled by a single human ship?" Council member Tarvok leaned forward, his scales rattling with agitation. "And you expect us to believe this?" "I have the sensor logs from all 6 ships, council member. I have the testimony of 30 officers. The evidence is clear." Krenvas kept his voice steady, though inside he felt the same shock they did. "The humans have technology that exceeds our own." "Impossible." Another council member slammed a clawed hand on his desk. "The quarantine reports from 200 years ago showed they were barely space-capable. Chemical rockets and primitive satellites. They were killing each other over resources and ideologies." "That was 200 years ago," a quiet voice said from the shadows at the back of the chamber. Everyone turned to look. A figure stepped into the light. She was human, small compared to the towering alien council members with dark hair and eyes that held both intelligence and sadness. Commander Sun-Hee wore the gray uniform of an Imperial strategic advisor, but she had been born on Earth 40 years ago, taken as a child when an Imperial science vessel had violated the quarantine. Sun-Hee, Emperor Dravik spoke from his throne, which sat higher than all the council seats. He was massive, even for his species, with deep purple skin and golden eyes. "You know these humans, explain." Sun-Hee walked to the center of the chamber. She had advised the Empire for 20 years, but now she felt torn. These were her people who had emerged from the darkness. "Your Majesty, council members, I warned you years ago that quarantining humanity was a mistake. You gave them 200 years of isolation, 200 years to develop without interference or distraction, and you underestimated what they could accomplish." "They should have destroyed themselves," Tarvok said. "All the psychological profiles suggested they would. Too violent, too divided. Humans are violent, yes, but they're also adaptable. They learn from their mistakes." Sun-Hee pulled up a holographic display showing Earth. When you quarantined them, they had just developed nuclear weapons and had nearly destroyed themselves with them. You thought that would be their end. Instead, they stepped back from the edge. They united their world, slowly, painfully, but they did it. And once unified, all that competitive energy, all that aggressive innovation turned outward. She changed the display to show technical schematics. While you assumed they were still struggling with basic spaceflight, they were developing quantum reactors. While you thought they couldn't leave their star system, they were testing faster than light drives. While you believed they were primitives, they were building warships. Emperor Dravik stood up from his throne and the room fell silent. "How many ships do they have?" Sun-Hee shook her head. "I don't know, Your Majesty. I've had no contact with Earth for decades, but if they sent one ship this deep into Imperial space, they have more. Many more. They wouldn't risk their only warship on a mission like this." "This is unacceptable," Krenvas said. "We must respond with force. Show them the power of the Empire." "That's exactly what Commander Vaxtor tried," Sun-Hee said quietly. 6 ships against 1. He lost. The council chamber erupted in argument. Some members called for immediate military action. Others demanded more information. A few suggested negotiation, though they were shouted down by the others. Emperor Dravik raised a hand and silence fell again. "Admiral Krenvas, how many ships can you gather?" "I can assemble a fleet of 200 warships within 3 days, Your Majesty. Our newest cruisers, destroyers, and battleships. More than enough to deal with one human vessel. Make it so. Find this human ship and destroy it. Show the galaxy that the Empire does not tolerate defiance." Dravik's voice was cold and final. Sun-Hee wanted to protest, wanted to warn them again, but she knew it would do no good. The Empire's pride had been wounded, and pride demanded blood. Instead, she bowed and left the chamber quietly. Back in her quarters, Sun-Hee accessed a secure communication terminal. She began composing a message, encrypted in a code that only someone from Earth would recognize. She didn't know if it would reach the human ship, but she had to try. "Indomitable Dawn, this is Commander Sun-Hee, born Lee Sun-Hee of Seoul, Earth. I was taken from home as a child. I have served the Empire, but my loyalty is to humanity. You have stirred up a storm. They are sending 200 ships to hunt you. Be careful, and know that not all humans in the galaxy have forgotten where they came from. She sent the message on a tight beam toward the last known location of the human ship, then destroyed the terminal. If the Empire discovered what she had done, she would be executed. But she didn't care. For the first time in decades, she had hope that Earth still existed, still thrived, and still remembered its children lost among the stars. On Earth, in the council chambers of the United Terran government, President Ji-hoon read Captain Jinho's report with growing concern. Around him, military advisors and political leaders debated the next move. They attacked our ship, said General Kyungmin, commander of the Terran army. We should respond with overwhelming force. They fired warning shots, Admiral Do-hyun countered. Jinho handled it perfectly. He demonstrated our capabilities without causing casualties. That's exactly what we needed to do. President Ji-hoon set down the report and looked at the gathering. The question is what happens next. We sent the Indomitable Dawn to open dialogue, to show the Empire we're ready to join the galactic community. Instead, we've made them afraid of us. Good, said Ambassador Bora. Fear brings respect. Fear also brings war, Ji-hoon replied. And we don't want war with an empire that controls 40 star systems. Admiral Do-hyun pulled up a star map. We have 8 warships of the Dawn class completed, with 12 more under construction. Our shipyards are working at full capacity. If the Empire wants war, we can defend ourselves. But the President is right. A war would cost both sides dearly. What do you recommend, Admiral? Ji-hoon asked. Send reinforcements. 5 ships. Enough to make it clear we're serious, but not so many that it looks like an invasion fleet. Station them at the border of Imperial space, and prepare the rest of our fleet for rapid deployment if needed. Ji-hoon considered this carefully. He had led Earth through 15 years of peace and prosperity. He had watched the shipyards grow, had authorized the military research programs that led to their technological advantages. But he had never wanted to use those advantages in war. Do it, he finally said. Send 5 ships under Captain Inha's command. Their orders are to support Captain Jinho and defend human interests, but to avoid conflict if possible. And get our diplomats working on back channels. If there are any Empire members willing to talk, we need to find them. As Earth prepared to send reinforcements, the Veltheron Empire mobilized its fleet. 200 warships began gathering at rally points near Sector 47. Their commanders received their orders. Find the human ship and destroy it. Show the galaxy that the Empire's dominance would not be challenged. Neither side wanted war, but both were preparing for it. And in the vast darkness of space, the Indomitable Dawn continued its journey deeper into Imperial territory, carrying the hopes and fears of an entire species on its hull. The collision between human ambition and Imperial pride was now inevitable. The only question was how many would die before it was resolved. The Karthus Nebula was a storm of colors in the darkness of space. Pink and purple clouds of stellar gas stretched across hundreds of light years, with new stars being born in bright clusters throughout the region. It was beautiful and deadly, filled with radiation that interfered with sensors and communications. Captain Jinho had chosen this location carefully. If they're going to hunt us, we'll make them work for it, he told his crew as the Indomitable Dawn entered the nebula's outer edges. Sensors are already degrading, Minji reported from her science station. The radiation is playing havoc with long-range scans. We can probably detect ships at about 200,000 kilometers, but beyond that, everything's fuzzy. Perfect, Lieutenant Hana said with a grim smile. That works both ways. If we can't see them clearly, they can't see us either. Captain Jinho had received Sun-hee's warning message 3 hours ago. 200 Imperial ships were coming. It should have been terrifying news, but instead it had given them time to prepare, and now reinforcements had arrived. 5 human warships dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the nebula's edge. The Relentless Storm, Thunder's Echo, Stellar Pride, Iron Will, and Crimson Dawn formed up with the Indomitable Dawn. 6 human ships total, against 200 Imperial vessels. Captain Inha's face appeared on Jinho's view screen. She was younger than Jinho, with an intense expression and a reputation for aggressive tactics. Captain Jinho, we're ready to stand with you. Glad to have you, Captain Inha. Have you reviewed the tactical plan? I have. It's risky, but it could work. Inha glanced at something off-screen. My tactical officer, Minho, has some suggestions for improvement. A young man appeared next to Inha on the screen. Tactical Officer Minho looked barely old enough to be in the military, but his eyes were sharp and calculating. Captain Jinho, sir. If we coordinate our fire patterns and use the nebula's density variations to mask our movements, we can multiply our effective strength. Show me, Jinho said. For the next hour, the human commanders planned their battle. They divided the nebula into sectors, planned ambush points, and worked out communication protocols that could function even with the interference. When they were done, they had a strategy that might let 6 ships defeat 200, or at least survive them. The Imperial fleet arrived like a swarm of angry insects. 200 warships emerged from faster-than-light travel in a massive formation. Admiral Krenvas commanded from the battleship Imperial Fist, the largest ship in the fleet at over 800 meters long. All ships, maintain formation, Krenvas ordered. We enter the nebula together. Sensor ships active scanning, find those humans. The Imperial fleet moved into the Karthus Nebula like a wall of metal and firepower. Their sensors struggled with the interference, but their sheer numbers seemed to guarantee success. How could 6 ships hide from 200? The answer came quickly. The Imperial fleet was halfway into the nebula when the first attack hit. The indomitable Dawn appeared from behind a dense gas cloud and fired a volley from its railguns. Solid metal projectiles moving at a significant fraction of light speed tore through 3 Imperial cruisers before anyone could react. The kinetic energy was so enormous that the ship simply broke apart. Return fire, Krenvas shouted, but the human ship was already gone, vanishing back into the swirling gases. Chaos spread through the Imperial formation. Ships fired wildly at sensor ghosts. The nebula's radiation made it impossible to get clear targeting locks, and then the other human ships struck. The relentless storm attacked from the fleet's left flank, its weapons precise and devastating. Captain Inha's ship moved like a dancer, appearing long enough to fire, then disappearing before the Imperial ships could respond. 2 more cruisers were destroyed. On the bridge of the indomitable Dawn, the crew worked with practiced efficiency. Engineer Taeyang had pushed the reactor to maximum output, feeding power to weapons, shields, and engines. The ship could accelerate faster, hit harder, and take more damage than anything the Empire had. Next target cluster identified, Hana reported. Sector 7, 4 destroyers and 2 battleships. All ships, this is Jinho, converge on Sector 7. Thunder's Echo and Stellar Pride, hit them from above. We'll take them from below, go. The coordinated attack was beautiful in its execution. 4 human ships appeared simultaneously around the Imperial group, firing from different angles. The Imperial ships tried to defend themselves, but their energy weapons were less effective in the nebula's interference. The human railguns, however, worked perfectly. Solid matter didn't care about radiation or electromagnetic fields. 6. Imperial ships became debris in less than a minute. Admiral Krenvas watched his fleet being torn apart and couldn't understand how it was happening. There are only 6 ships. We outnumber them 30-1, his second officer spoke carefully. Admiral, their weapons are more effective in this environment. And they know the nebula better than we do. They're using it against us, then we adapt. All ships break formation, spread out, search every cloud, every pocket of gas, find them and overwhelm them with numbers. The Imperial fleet scattered, dividing into smaller hunting groups. It seemed like a good strategy, but it played directly into the humans' hands. Smaller groups were easier targets. Medical Officer Sujin treated wounded crew members as the battle raged. The indomitable Dawn had taken hits from massed Imperial fire. The shields had held, but the ship had been shaken. 2 crew members had broken bones, and several others had minor injuries. How much longer? Sujin asked over the comm. We're wearing them down, Captain Jinho replied. Stay ready. The turning point came when Tactical Officer Minho identified the Imperial flagship. Captain Inha, Captain Jinho, I've found their command ship. It's trying to stay hidden in the nebula's core, coordinating the others. All ships new target, Jinho ordered. The flagship. We hit it together and we hit it hard. 6 human warships converged on the Imperial Fist from different directions. They emerged from the nebula's gases like sharks from deep water. Admiral Krenvas had only seconds to realize what was happening. Shields! Maximum shields! He shouted. The Imperial Fist was powerful, its shields strong, its armor thick. But 6 human ships firing together was too much. Railgun rounds hammered the flagship from every angle. The shields collapsed in seconds. Armor plating buckled and tore. Critical systems failed. Abandon ship. Krenvas ordered as his bridge filled with smoke. All hands abandon ship. Escape pods launched from the dying flagship. The Imperial Admiral found himself floating in an emergency pod, watching his ship break apart. Around him, his fleet was in chaos, leaderless and confused. Captain Jinho's voice came over open channels, broadcasting to every Imperial ship. Imperial fleet, this is Captain Jinho of the Indomitable Dawn. Your flagship is destroyed. Your admiral has abandoned ship. You've lost 47 vessels. Surrender now and no more of you need to die. There was a long silence. Then one by one, Imperial ships began powering down their weapons. The fight had gone out of them. They had come to destroy one human ship and instead found themselves defeated by 6. Engineer Taeyang ran diagnostics on the reactor. It had performed flawlessly throughout the battle. Medical Officer Sujin finished treating the wounded. Science Officer Minji collected data on the Imperial ships for future analysis. And on Earth, Admiral Do Yun received the battle report and allowed himself a small smile. The human fleet had proven itself. The galaxy would never look at humanity the same way again. In his escape pod, Admiral Krenva stared at the human ships and finally understood what Commander Sun He had tried to tell them. The Empire hadn't quarantined humanity to protect the galaxy from them. They had trapped a sleeping giant and given it 200 years to grow stronger. Now the giant was awake and the galaxy would have to make room for it. The news of the Imperial fleet's defeat spread across the galaxy like wildfire. On 1,000 worlds in 100 languages, people whispered the impossible story. 6 human ships had destroyed or disabled 47 Imperial warships and forced the surrender of the rest. On Veltheron Prime, Emperor Dravik sat in his private chambers, staring at the battle recordings. He had watched them a dozen times, trying to understand how such a defeat was possible. His most powerful fleet, his best ships, his experienced commanders, all beaten by a species they had dismissed as primitives. A knock came at his door. "Enter," he said wearily. His daughter Yejun walked in. Unlike her father's purple skin, hers was lighter, almost lavender. She had inherited his intelligence but lacked his pride. "Father, the Council is demanding action. They want to send the home fleet, mobilize every ship we have, and throw more lives away?" Dravik shook his head. "No, we made a mistake, Yejun, a terrible mistake. We underestimated them. Then what do? The Emperor was quiet for a long moment. "We talk to them. We negotiate, and we hope they're more merciful than we were." Across the Empire, other changes were happening. 3 species that had been conquered and absorbed into Imperial space saw the defeat as an opportunity. The Krylloth, the Vendari, and the Zephys all rose in rebellion. If the mighty Veltheron Empire could be beaten, maybe they could be free. The Empire, which had seemed unshakable for centuries, suddenly looked fragile, and everyone was watching to see what the humans would do next. On Earth, President Ji-hoon addressed the United Terran Council. Representatives from every continent sat in the Great Hall listening carefully. Our mission was to establish peaceful contact with the galaxy. Instead, we fought a battle that will be remembered for centuries. We did not seek this conflict, but we have shown that humanity will defend itself. Now we must decide, do we remain isolated, or do we step forward and claim our place among the stars? "We've earned that place with blood," General Kyungmin said. "We should take it, but at what cost?" Ambassador Bora asked. "If we push too hard, we could end up in a war that spans the entire galaxy." Admiral Do Yun stood. "I've spoken with Captain Jinho and Captain Inha. They both believe the Empire is ready to negotiate. The military option has failed. They'll try diplomacy next. Then we should be ready with our own diplomatic mission," Ji-hoon said. "But we negotiate from a position of strength. Admiral Do Yun, I want you to take a full battle group to neutral space. 10 ships. Enough to make it clear we're serious, but not so many that it looks like an invasion." "And who leads the diplomatic team?" Ambassador Bora asked. Ji-hoon smiled slightly. "Captain Jinho has already proven himself. He'll be our chief negotiator with Lieutenant Hana as his deputy. They understand both the military and diplomatic aspects of this situation." 3 weeks later, in a neutral star system far from both Earth and Veltheron Prime, 2 fleets met under a flag of truce. 10 human warships faced 20 Imperial vessels. In the space between them, a small station had been built specifically for the negotiations. Captain Jinho and Lieutenant Hana arrived in a shuttle, along with Ambassador Bora and Science Officer Minji. They wore formal diplomatic uniforms rather than military ones, but everyone knew what they represented: a species that could defend itself. The imperial delegation was led by Regent Ye Jun. She had been granted full authority by her father to negotiate on behalf of the Empire. With her came several council members and, to everyone's surprise, Commander Sunhee. When Sunhee saw the human delegation, tears filled her eyes. For 40 years she had been alone among aliens, the only human in the Empire, and now here were her people. "Welcome home," Captain Jinho said quietly, and Sunhee broke down crying. The negotiations took 3 days. They were tense, difficult, and at times seemed ready to break down completely. But both sides knew the alternative was war, and neither wanted that. On the 3rd day, they reached an agreement. The Treaty of Neutral Stars established several key principles. First, the quarantine of Earth was officially ended. Humanity was recognized as a sovereign, spacefaring civilization with the right to travel freely through the galaxy. Second, formal diplomatic relations would be established between Earth and the Veltheron Empire, with embassies and ambassadors. Third, both sides agreed to share certain technologies for peaceful purposes. And fourth, a joint commission would be created to address the grievances of species under imperial rule, with human mediators participating. "This treaty doesn't erase the past," Regent Yejun said as they signed the agreement, "but it gives us a chance to build a better future." "Agreed," Captain Jinho replied. "Earth doesn't seek to replace the Empire. We just want our place in the galaxy." The treaty was transmitted to both worlds simultaneously. On Earth, celebrations erupted in every major city. Humanity had joined the galactic community, not as subjects but as equals. On Veltheron Prime, the reaction was more muted. The Empire had been humbled, but it had survived. And perhaps some thought this change was necessary. Perhaps the Empire had grown too arrogant, too certain of its superiority. Admiral Do Hyun was promoted to commander of the new Terran Expeditionary Fleet. His mission was to explore beyond imperial space, to make contact with other civilizations, and to map the vast regions of the galaxy that neither humans nor the Empire had ever visited. Engineer Taeyang's reactor design became the standard for all new human warships. Within 5 years, Earth would have 50 ships of the Dawn class, with plans for 100 more. Science Officer Minji led a team analyzing the technologies shared in the treaty. She discovered that the Empire had been hiding information about dozens of other civilizations. The galaxy was far more populated, far more complex than anyone had known. Commander Sunhee chose to stay with the human diplomatic mission rather than return to Earth. "I've lived among aliens for 40 years, she explained. "I understand them. I can help bridge the gap between our people." Captain Jinho and Lieutenant Hana were promoted and given command of Earth's first embassy ship, a vessel designed for both diplomacy and defense. They would travel the galaxy, making contact with new species and representing humanity's interests. 6 months after the treaty was signed, a message arrived at Earth from an unknown source. It was encoded in a way that showed incredible technological sophistication, far beyond even human capabilities. The message was simple. "The Elder Concordance welcomes humanity to the galactic stage. We have watched your species for a long time. We are pleased to finally meet you. Coordinates for first contact are attached." President Ji-hoon read the message with a mixture of excitement and concern. "We've barely begun to understand the Empire, and now there's something even more advanced out there." "The galaxy is bigger than we thought," Admiral Do Hyun said. "And apparently, we're not the only ones who've been watching and waiting." On the bridge of the rebuilt and upgraded Indomitable Dawn, Captain Jinho looked at a star map that now showed hundreds of star systems, with notes about their inhabitants, resources, and political situations. The map was incomplete, with vast blank areas marked as unexplored. Hana stood beside him. "Do you ever think about that first day? When we jumped into Imperial space and everything changed?" "Every day," Jinho replied. "We went looking for a place in the galaxy. We found it, but not the way we expected. And now we have to deal with the Elder Concordance, whatever they are." Jinho smiled. "Humanity has spent 200 years proving we can survive and adapt. We'll figure this out too." Through the view screen, stars stretched out in all directions. Somewhere out there, the Elder Concordance waited. Somewhere out there, New civilizations existed that humanity had never dreamed of. Somewhere out there, challenges and opportunities awaited. The indomitable dawn had been built to explore, to defend, and to announce humanity's presence to the galaxy. It had succeeded beyond anyone's expectations. But the real journey was just beginning. Captain Jinho turned to his crew. Helm, set course for the coordinates the Elder Concordance provided. Science team, I want full analysis of every star system along the way. Engineering, keep that reactor running smooth. We're going further than any human has gone before. Aye, Captain, came the responses. The ship turned, its powerful engines glowing with barely contained energy. In the moment before it jumped to faster-than-light speed, Jinho thought about Earth, about the billions of people who were counting on them, about the responsibility of representing an entire species. Then the jump engaged. Space folded, and the indomitable dawn leaped forward into the unknown. Behind them, they left an empire that had learned humility. Ahead of them lay mysteries that would test everything humanity had become. The galaxy had belonged to the Veltheran Empire for so long that many had forgotten there could be alternatives. Now humanity had proven that strength came in many forms, that intelligence and innovation could overcome raw numbers, and that a species willing to stand for itself could not be dismissed. The age of human exploration had begun, and the galaxy would never be the same.